Hey everybody, it's Sam Jacobs. Happy Friday. Welcome to Friday Fundamentals. We've got this week's guest, Eddie Baez, back on the show. Eddie, by day, is a senior business development consultant at Ibis World, and by night, he runs Career Pipe, which is an SDR training school and program and a recruitment agency that helps companies hire underrepresented talent, particularly in the New York City area. Eddie is from, as he says, the Boogie Down Bronx. And so he is New York City. The heartbeat of New York is present when it comes to this week's guest. And we're going to ask him, what's the number one way that you can grow revenue and accelerate growth on your sales team? Before we get there, we want to thank our sponsor. Friday Fundamentals is brought to you by Outreach. Outreach triples the productivity of sales teams and empowers them to drive predictable and measurable revenue growth. By prioritizing the right activities and scaling customer engagement with intelligent automation, Outreach makes customer-facing teams more effective and improves visibility into what really drives results. Eddie, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Sam. Pleasure to be here.
We're excited to have you back. So our question for you today is, what's the number one tactic that you can use to drive growth across your sales floor?
The absolute number one thing you can do is to diversify and increase the channels of diversification of your sales team. So one of the biggest things that I've seen a lot of the companies that we work with struggle with is finding those unique channels to really diversify their floor. A lot of the teams that we work with tend to be very homogenous, and though the culture definitely speaks to diversification and inclusion, and they've dedicated a lot of time, manpower to making that happen, where they've tended to fall short is finding those unique channels. So, we obviously at Career Pipe have been trying to create a new channel for folks to tap into some junior sales talent. But there are definitely a lot of orgs that are helping, mid and level and senior levels sales professionals find placement and find roles. And the big thing that I would encourage sales leaders to think about is, how many channels are you really leveraging? Is it 2 or 3, or could you potentially be looking at 10 or 15? Promise you they do exist. The job wells of the world are there, and we've even looked at some new folks who are really trying to change the game in the conversation, like Power to Fly. So there's definitely a lot of orgs that are fully dedicated to that diversity and inclusion. And I would say that you definitely would be doing yourself a pretty big service if you're able to not only reach out to these folks, but also start to really broaden and cast a wider net for diversity efforts. I was reading an article recently that said that anyone who reaches out that is coming from the same culture, so one of your either sales professionals or SDRs reaching out to somebody in a company, a target account, and if they're able to speak the same language or resemble the person that they're speaking to, on average, they're 152% more likely, according to Harvard Business Review, to actually make a connection rather than anyone else. And actually, that leads to more sales and more opportunities. In addition to that, there less than 5% of colleges and universities actually teach a formal sales program. However, there is a 5% out there, or a little under 5%, that do teach it. I would seek those out. Look for junior talent, people who are moldable and shapeable and are looking to actually join the sales community and are hungry to make an impact. They are out there. I know that New Jersey has quite a few, and they're right in your backyard. So I would definitely try to tap into local talent wherever possible. And I'd say, spend the time to really look at the types of resources there are. There are employee resource groups and, places like the Revenue Collective, where there's channels and communities built entirely around conversations around diversity. And a lot of those folks tend to be people that you may want to work with or may want to add and include to your sales team. So, it's kind of some after hours responsibilities or things that you could be working towards. You could be connecting with those folks and networking. And again, they are out there. It's just a matter of how wide a net you want to cast.
That's great advice. And thank you, Eddie. So again, like the number one way to drive growth is to diversify the collection of talent on your sales floor. And the way to do that is to make sure that you're diversifying your recruiting channels and not just relying on 1 or 2 channels, but really trying to cast a broad net so that you can have the best possible talent working with you to drive growth. Would you feel like that's a fair summary?
100%.
Awesome. Eddie, remind us, if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
My cell phone is 718-678-4490. I pick up 24/7. Try it.
We will. Can we text you instead of call?
You can. You absolutely can.
Perfect.
But I prefer a call.
All right. You're old school. You've mentioned that.
Yeah.
Folks, if you want to reach out to me, you can linkedin.com/Sam F. Jacobs. You can also email me, sam@revenuecollective.com. I am not going to give you my cell phone, but you can call Eddie if you want to. We want to thank our sponsor again, Outreach. Outreach triples the productivity of sales teams, empowering them to drive predictable and measurable revenue growth. Eddie, thanks so much for being our guest this week.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, folks. We'll talk to you next time.